What's up, guys? It's DarkArmedDuelist, and today doing a Shining Sarcophagus deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because we just got an amazing new Dark Magician card for this deck that actually helps us summon out Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name scratched for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 2 copies of the new Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic. This card is definitely a 2-of in the build and absolutely amazing for this deck. This card has the ability that this card's name becomes Dark Magician while on the field. And you use the following effects this card once per turn, that if Shining Sarcophagus is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is destroyed by card effect, you can, and a level 5 or higher monster is on the field, you can special summon this card, then you can set a spell or trap from your deck that mentions Dark Magician, meaning we can actually set to our side of the field our copy of Secrets of Dark Magic. And this card can actually be destroyed with your copy of Gandora G, giving you a dragon monster and a Dark Magician on your side of the field. So on the follow-up, you can actually flip your Secrets of Dark Magic to step into your copy of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon using this card and your copy of Gandora G, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Gandora G. Gandora G is really good as a 3-of in this particular build because it's super easy to step into your copy of Dragoon, and it's a really good card in this deck because it gains 3 attack for each banished card, and you can only use the following effects this card once per turn. Then if you control a Shining Sarcophagus, you can special summon this card from your hand. You also pay half your life points to destroy as many other cards on the field as possible, and if you do, banish them. Then special summon a level 7 or lower monster that mention Shining Sarcophagus from your deck and increase the level of that monster by the number of cards that were destroyed by this effect, which is a great ability to help you summon out a bunch of different cards. But the really cool thing is this card actually destroys the monsters and then banishes them, meaning you will actually use the effect of Dark Magician to bring itself back to your side of the field and then set your copy of Secrets of Dark Magic, which is the Dark Magician fusion spell, to be able to use these 2 cards to step into your copy of Dragoon. We then play 3 copies of Gadget Trio. Gadget Trio is basically a 1-card combo for the deck. As this card has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Shining Sarcophagus or a spell or trap that mentions it from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to instantly search out your copy of Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand off this card's effect. We then play 2 copies of Silent Magician Zero. This card is really good as a 2-of in the build, and I really like playing this card in the deck as a 2-of because it has the ability, if your opponent draws a card, increase this card's level by the number drawn. Also, when this card's level is higher than its original level, it gains attack equal to the difference times 500, and when your opponent activates a spell card or effect while you control Shining Sarcophagus, quick effect, you can actually negate the activation if you do increase this card's level by 1, just basically negating spell effects, and also giving this card basically an additional 500 after it negates, which is really nice to be able to do. We then play a single copy of Silent Swordsman Zero. Silent Swordsman Zero is just a great 1-of in the build, and it's just really nice to be able to play in this deck, because once per turn during the stamina phase, you increase this card's level by 1. Also, while this card has a higher level than its original level, it gains 500 attack points times the difference, which is a really cool ability, like your copy of your Silent Magician. Also, when your opponent activates a card effect that targets your Shining Sarcophagus or a monster that mentions it, that you control, quick effect, you can negate the activation if you increase this card level by 1, giving it an additional 500 attack points and giving you some protection from targeting. We then play a single copy of Archfiend's Advent. Archfiend's Advent is great to be able to play in the deck as a 1-of because this card helps out a lot in the deck. As while you control Shining Sarcophagus, you can normal summon this card without tributing, and other monsters that you control gain 500 attack during your turn only. And if this card is normally special summon, you can actually target a monster that your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase. Also, but that monster cannot attack unless you controlled Shining Sarcophagus when this effect was activated, which is not that big of a deal because you're always going to control Shining Sarcophagus, but this card is amazing to basically be a walking change of heart. Plus, it's just too cool not to play a golden summon skull. We then play a single copy of More Marshmallow. This card is really good as a defensive card in the deck, but I feel like you only need a single copy. While you control Shining Sarcophagus, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, your opponent's monsters cannot target monsters for attacks, except for this one, giving you a lot of protection for your copy of Dragoon, because usually the way your opponent's going to out Dragoon is by swinging through it. And by putting this card on your side of the field next to a copy of Dragoon, it just gives you some protection for your copy of Dragoon, covering up its one weakness, which is battle. So this card is really good in the deck as a one-of. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is amazing in the deck as a 3-of to basically just stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Shifter. Shifter is really good in this deck to be able to play, especially for your copy of Gandor G, as Gandor G gains 3 attack for each banished card, and this card is going to make everything get banished, plus by activating Shifter sometimes, you just instantly win the game. Because graveyard reliant decks cannot play around this card, and it's just really good to be able to play in this build. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is definitely a one-of in the build to basically just stop your opponent's hand traps while you're going in for all of your plays. Then play a single copy of Secrets of Dark Magic. Secrets of Dark Magic is definitely a one-of in the build. You want to set this card off your copy of your Dark Magician to be able to go in for your copy of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon by using your copy of Gandor G plus the new Dark Magician to step into Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. We then play a single copy of Ties That Bind. Ties That Bind is definitely a one-of in the build, as this card is just a powerhouse of a card that if you control a Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, you can special summon 2 level 4 or lower monsters with different names that mention Shining Sarcophagus from your hand and or deck. Also, for the rest turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extract, which is not that big of a deal because you can use your copy of Secrets of Dark Magic during the opponent's turn because it's a quick play spell to step in your copy of Dragoon. But this card is really good in the deck to help you summon out your copy of your Silent Magician 0 and your Silent Swordsman 0 out to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Turn Silent. Turn Silence is definitely a 2-of in the build because this card is actually a negate that you can target a face-up monster that you control and increase its level by 3. Also, if you activate this card in response to your opponent's monster's effects activation, while you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, you can negate that opponent's effect, which is a great ability to be able to use as a negate and a boost for one of your monsters. And during damage calculation, if your monster that mentioned Shining Sarcophagus battles, you can manage this card from the graveyard to end the battle phase, which is a great effect just to basically end the battle phase to give you some protection. We then play 3 copies of Shining Sarcophagus. The entire deck revolves around this card. This card is amazing. It cannot be destroyed by monster effects, so basically your copy of Gandora cannot destroy it. Also, this card has the ability that during the main phase, you can add 1 card that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Shining Sarcophagus. And if your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard, you can actually discard a spell and then target one of those monsters and send it back to the graveyard, which is a really cool effect. This card is the entire deck, and what the entire deck focuses around getting to on your side of the field so you can summon out your monsters, but this card is extremely important for the deck, and if you don't have this card, you always want to be able to search it off your copy of Gadget Trio. We then play 3 copies of Future Silence. Future Silence is definitely a 3-of in the build and just really helpful in this particular deck because this card has the ability to let you add a monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand. Then, if you activate this card during the battle phase, while you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, each player draws until they have 6 cards in their hand, which is a really cool effect to be able to use, but you're basically just using this card as a rota for the deck. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is definitely a 3-of in the build just to break your opponent's board to help you go in for game. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is really good in the deck as a 3-of to help you dig in for the deck for the exact cards that you need, like your copies of Shining Sarcophagus. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of There Can Be Only One. There Can Be Only One is really good in the deck as a 1-up, because a lot of our monsters have different types, so this card is really good to flip up against the opponent to basically just lock them down. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is definitely a 3-of in the build, just to basically stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. This card is really good as a 3-of in the build and just helps out to basically lock down your opponent. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start with a single copy of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. This card is basically our new boss monster for the deck, and amazing that we actually have the Yugioh friendship monster as our boss monster for Shining Sarcophagus, which was actually the ceremonial duel between Atem and basically Yugi, which is just really cool. We then play a single copy of Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon is a really good super poly target to be able to summon out to your side of the field. Play a single copy of Garua. Garua is also a great super poly target to be able to summon out. Play a single copy of Dracos Tapalia. Dracos Tapalia is an amazing walking negate, just like your copy of Dragoon, but this card is a great super poly target, just like your copy of Garua and Mud Dragon, to basically just summon out off of super poly. And play a single copy of Earth Golem. Earth Golem is just an amazing option to be able to summon, especially with Cyverse and Link monsters being able to run around in the meta. This card is really good to be able to summon out. Play a single copy of Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is just a great option to be able to make. Since we have cards like Archfiend's Advent and different level 4 monsters, it's very easy to step into this card. You can even use your copy of More Marshmallow plus your Dark Magician to be able to step into this card. And it's really easy to put light and dark into this card. And you don't even have to use a tuner to make this card, which is really nice. And it also spots removes a card off the field when it's summoned to your side of the field. You get light into this card, then single monsters that you control are unaffected by monsters' effects activated by your opponent. But dark in this card, monsters that you control cannot be destroyed by battle, which is a really cool effect to be able to use, especially with Dragoon, which is usually the only way your opponent's going to out Dragoon is by basically swinging through it. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is really good to be able to play in the deck. It's just a good option overall. Play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is just a really big boss monster that can pop multiple cards on the field. Play a single copy of the Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. I had to sneak in a Blackluster Soldier somewhere in this deck, and this card is just really good because if this card is link summon using a level 7 or higher monster as a material, your opponent cannot target it with monster effects and cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And also, when this card destroys a monster at battle, you can activate one of these effects that gains 15 attack, making a second attack during the next battle phase, or banish a card non-targeting, which is really cool to be able to do. Plus, we do have the new Dark Magician that special summons itself, making this card a pretty good option in the build. You play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, one copy of Selene so that we can link climb this deck. With the amount of spellcasters we play in this build, this card is always live. We play a single copy of the Dark Charmer and a single copy of the Light Charmer because we do play light and dark in this deck, just as really good options to be able to summon so we can climb into Selene and then Access Code. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight. You can change this card out for Nightmare Phoenix or Cerberus if you want to. Probably Nightmare Phoenix is a better option to be able to play over this card if you're looking for a more budget option. Then we play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is great to be able to summon your copy of your Nightmare Unicorn or your SP Little Knight during the opponent's turn. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Shining Sarcophagus before, you should definitely give this deck a try, especially with the new Dark Magician, which is just super nostalgic. I hope we keep getting support for this deck, and it's just really fun to be able to play, but definitely comment down below what card you would actually like to see get turned into a Shining Sarcophagus monster. I would actually like to see Gaia the Fierce Knight or Celtic Guardian turned into a Shining Sarcophagus monster. So, that's going to be this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of our notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.